Hello everyone, Sons and Two, welcome to another comparisons, this time on quest-based mods. Now, quest-based mods are mostly useful for either guiding players, giving them rewards, or for pushing veteran players to have challenges to overcome. It depends on the mod, of course, so some might have other things like a reputation system, death counter, and others. Most probably include aspects like joining quests between one or the other, where one is a requirement for the other, one might be repeatable, and so on. But yeah, we'll just look through a few. This is going to be a more smaller episode due to sort of how many quest mods I was able to come across and what I'm actually aware of. There probably is maybe even more out there than I'm familiar with, or that I could search for, so we'll just see with what's available. First we have hardcore questing mode though, which includes pretty much a questing system, a book, a few blocks that you can use to put things into, which some quests are required to send items or blocks or fluids or so into. I think fluids can work, unless that's for say sending it into a required block like a tank, not the quest-based blocks added by the mod. There's also a tier-based reward system with loot bags, but you can also just set up loot, as you can see there, for the hopper and the sort of quest-based block. There's an in-game editor, which you can access the editing via the config, and you can see a bunch of other options as well, which we're not going to get into too much. But if you want to access editor mode, best to use this option here, which is usually set to false by default. So if you want to edit things, make sure to enable this first. This is obviously the Fabric version, which I'm assuming things are fairly similar in configs among both Forge and Fabric versions. But yeah, there's also a death counter tracker as well, with the insides of the book showing death by cactus, lava, magic, whichever happens to be the case. So there's that. We'll just check images and you can get a better idea of what it looks like. So you can see the death counter page there. You can see the specific player. You can also set parties and a bunch of others, but there's probably people that have covered it in better depth than I can, just sort of giving a general overview, as well as like descriptions, quest names, and manual submissions, and so on. There is a Fabric version though, for those interested. It's only been out for a few days as of the making of this video, but if you're interested in that, then definitely check it out. There's progression, however, that adds in obviously a more different approach. I think it still adds a book, but you can set things differently. Instead of just say jumping between icons with the editing, which doesn't show here, but you'd have like say a cursor, text, delete, and so on, or change item for the rewards or requirements or setting the task. Progression has it where you use things through the inside of the interface rather than through the sort of configs or book or otherwise. So you can just select and add things like so. You're not jumping back and forth between different icons on the side. So you can, for example, set the connections between each one, you can rename them, you've got tabs on the side to access between each one. So you've got, say, your typical Minecraft stuff, you might have a banner specific one, you might have machines, you might have accessing your inventory, it sort of depends. You can save templates, you can have quests be repeatable, which can also happen in hardcore questing mode, of course. You can set conditions, have the block be visible when looking at it, whether it's breaking it, crafting it, the amount of times you have to, whether or not it has to be visible that you've broken it, I assume? Sorry, the quest is visible, I mean. What actions, so you are allowed to use a crafting table, furnace, or something, for example, or that's the required action to complete it, to make it clear. Yeah, there's obviously other things to view, such as in the book, descriptions, other bits and pieces, different connections. So instead of the sort of GUI approach there, you've got the book sort of viewpoint. There's bunch of templates. There's a few differences between the 1.7.10 and the newer versions, all the way up to 1.10, of course. You've got Quest Weaver, which obviously allows you to have the connections. You've got icons you can set. You've got a tick showing you've completed it. You've got a questline builder and a bunch of configs to access. So mostly this one's going to be more config focused rather than book focused. But yeah, we'll just take a look here and you can see a bunch of options. So you've got inputs for testing, I assume. You've got the name, description, items or other details as requirements for the quest. You've got arguments. You've got icon texture locations to import from, I assume. You've got hover text, I'm not too sure on that. You've got required quests, and you've got the category that these fit into. And you can add more categories, you can generate the output file, you can add a new quest, you can add connectors to those quests. Instead of a bunch of things, you can say which direction it connects from. So instead of it just being, say, you drag one to the other, you just have it from which direction it happens to connect to. Otherwise, though, that's pretty much it. There's tags, score, take and has conditions. There's categories, connectors, a bunch of other bits and pieces, but yeah. That's pretty much it for this. I think I have it on me, but I can't quite remember. I've probably got it somewhere. I'm trying to remember which version for 1.15.2. I'm sure I had it. I probably don't have it here right now, but yeah, you'll pretty much just want to use these two files and then the quest builder to make things happen. But yeah. You've got custom quests though, which is another UI focused one, but also a book to access that UI. Otherwise though, you've got your tabs for, say, different chapters, you've got your connections, you've got your different coloured lines for, I'm assuming, showing which one you've completed, besides just the icon itself being green. Maybe others for repeatability, I'm not sure. Because a lot has changed since I've last used this mod. But you've got the ability to access things from a JSON file, rendering into fully functioning GUI, quest requirement detection, reward execution, multiplayer support when questing progress across servers or worlds, redoing the questing GUI has already happened. There's a bunch of other things coming eventually. But you can see in that how you'd access each of the quests, what the tabs are like, what they're called, what the icons are, so sorry, apples or glass or diamonds to make things interesting. You've got the requirements here, as well as the reward that you're getting, and then you've got the requirement being to defeat zombies, of course. So you've got things like defeating mobs, you've got crafting, having things in your hand, a description giving you a background of what, say, this is about, or what it relates to. Say it's like you were researching something to do with apples and they're useful in some case, I don't know, whatever sort of background information or flavor text you want. You get an indication of a quest being completed and which actual quest name it is, and yeah, so there is quite a bit you can do. I think this is most likely another config centered one though. Of course,